welcome to Whispers of Ink. I'm Machado de Assis, and now I will read one of my stories.
Let's start with the book, The 13th Carriage, which is part of my novels collection. Chapter 1. The Soledade estate sat in the heart of a prosperous town in the state of Rio de Janeiro. 10 years before, it had belonged to Commander Faria, who left it in his will to his only son from his first marriage, Dr. Amaro de Faria. The commander died in 1858, and just a few months later, his widow, Amaro's stepmother, passed away too. With no other children or close relatives, Dr. Amaro became the sole owner of the Soledade estate. Along with it came 300 enslaved workers, sugar-cane mills, vast coffee plantations, and enormous forests filled with valuable timber. To put it plainly, Amaro had inherited around 2,000 contos and was 28 years old. He held a golden key that opened every door in the house. He had studied law at the University of São Paulo and had spent 5 years there. Those were the only years he had ever lived away from home. He barely knew the capital city, having visited only a few times while passing through. As soon as he received his law degree, he returned to the estate. He had already been living there for 5 years when his father died. Everyone assumed after the commander's death that Dr. Amaro would remain a farmer, focused only on his land and indifferent to the rest of the world. In truth, that was exactly what he wanted. His law degree was nothing more than a piece of paper to show if ever needed, but he had no plans to practice law. One day, the provincial governor was traveling through the region and stayed at the Soledade estate. After an hour of conversation, the governor offered Amaro some kind of official position. But the young landowner politely refused, explaining that he wished only to grow coffee and sugarcane and had no interest in the affairs of the republic. That night, the governor found it hard to sleep, thinking about how unusual it was for someone so young to show such selflessness and detachment. In his heart, the governor believed that men like Cincinnatus leaders, who gave up power to return to simple lives, no longer existed. Amaro hadn't seen Luis Marcondes in years, not since their school days, when they studied together and shared the same dreams. Back then, they were equals. But time had been kinder to Marcondes. Had traveled, built a fortune, and now carried himself like a man who'd seen the world. When he arrived at the Soledade farm, Amaro greeted him with open arms. The welcome was warm as only the Brazilian countryside could offer. Coffee was served, and barely had Amaro taken his first sip when Marcondes leaned forward and began to speak. "So, what's this I hear?" Marcondes asked. "You've buried yourself completely in coffee and sugar. I heard this the moment I got back to Rio. Oh, by the way, I just came from Paris." "Did you know that?" Amaro raised an eyebrow. "Yes, I heard you were in Paris," Amaro said slowly. "And I suppose you're telling me it's the best place on earth." "That's an understatement," Marcondes said, smiling. "The truth is, the worst thing in life is never having been there. There's nothing missing in Paris. You just ask and it's yours. Horse races, balls, theaters, cafes, parties that last until dawn. It's like living in a dream. It's style, it's life, it's everything." He paused, then added with a grin, "Of course, money doesn't stay in your pocket for long. The moment someone hands you 1,000 francs, they seem to vanish." But you live. Oh, how you live. He took a breath and continued. But when I got back to Rio, the first thing people told me was that you had become a plantation owner. At first, I didn't believe it. I had to come see for myself. And now I see it's true. Yes, Amaro said simply. You know, I've gotten used to it. I was raised here, and even though I spent some time away, I don't think I'd ever feel more at home anywhere else. Marcondes nodded, as if he had expected that answer. Habit is a second nature, he said, trying to sound wise. That's right, Amaro replied. I'm doing fine. I don't think life is so bad. Marcondes looked at him and smiled again, but this time with pity. Bad? Life? First of all, what you're living isn't life. It's just existence. I compare you to a coffee plant. You were born here. You grew here. You live here. You produce. And you'll die knowing nothing of what life really is. For a guy your age who's smart and has 2 million reyes, living like this is practically suicide. Society expects more. The conversation was cut short by dinner, which saved both the farmer and the reader from another long speech by Marcondes. Back in college, the young bachelor was already known as the orator, because he always had to give a speech about everything. Amaro still remembered the long talk Marcondes gave to a theater ticket seller over the price of a ticket. The boredom, however, was only postponed. During dinner, they talked about old college days and the latest news from the capital. At the end of the meal, Marcondes agreed to visit the sugar mills and some parts of the farm with Amaro and the local public school teacher. The teacher was on Christmas break and had come to spend a few days with the young farmer. He had the habit of comparing every modern farming technique to old Roman or Greek methods, which always led to another speech from Marcondes and another yawn from Amaro. Night came, and the teacher went to bed not so much because he was tired, but to escape Marcondes' speeches. Alone in the dining room, Marcondes and Amaro stayed behind, drinking coffee and smoking cigars. They went back to talking about their college years. Each of them gave updates about their old classmates. Most had gone their separate ways. Some were now local judges, others provincial presidents, some were lawyers or politicians, while many had done nothing important. Among them was the young Marcondes, who claimed to be the happiest man in the Americas. And it's simple, he told Amaro. Leave the farm, go on a trip, and you'll see what I mean. I can't leave the farm. Why not? Aren't you rich enough? I am. But in the end, my happiness is right here. Amaro was the kind of man who liked to stay put. He once told Marcondes, "My father taught me never to leave what I know for something unknown." I don't doubt that the unknown could be great. But if what I have is already good, why risk it all just to chase something I can't see clearly? Beautiful theory, Marcondes exclaimed, setting down his coffee cup on the saucer. If everyone thought like that, we'd still be wearing animal skins today. Columbus would never have found the Americas. Captain Cook wouldn't have sailed the seas. Amaro cut him off before he could go on. But I'm not trying to discover anything. And I'm not saying everyone should feel the way I do. I'm happy. Why should I go looking for something better if I might end up with nothing at all? You're impossible, Marcondes said with a laugh. Let's drop it. And so the conversation ended for now. But Marcondes, either on purpose or just because he loved to talk about himself. Maybe both started telling Amaro all about his many adventures, both in Brazil and abroad. His stories were a mix of truth and exaggeration, fact and fantasy, and they kept Amaro entertained deep into the night. Marcondes stayed at the Soledade farm for about 8 days, and during that time, he never stopped talking about how different real life was from what he called Amaro's quiet, almost boring way of living. By the end of those 8 days, he had convinced Amaro to go with him to Europe. "I want to treat you," Amaro said. "You'll thank me for it," Marcondes replied. Marcondes went ahead to Rio de Janeiro and waited for the young farmer, who arrived a month later after handing over the management of the farm to an old friend of his father's. Then, on the first available ship, the 2 old classmates from college boarded a boat to Bordeaux. As for what happened next in Europe, it doesn't matter much to our story. Amaro, who preferred a quiet life, stayed in Paris as soon as they arrived. He liked it there. And since Marcondes didn't feel the need to go any further, he didn't push his friend to travel more. Amaro walked through the streets of Rio de Janeiro, like a man returning to a place he had never truly left. The city buzzed with life, the same mix of noise, color, and ambition that had always defined it. But Amaro felt different. He had spent a year in Europe, chasing dreams he couldn't quite name, and now he was back, empty-handed and tired. The truth was, he had expected some great revelation, some secret to happiness that European cities promised in their books and paintings. But he found nothing. His friend Marcondes had tried to show him the pleasures of Paris, the theaters, the cafes, the dances, the women. Amaro had gone along, curious at first, then bored, then disappointed. Nothing gave him joy for long. He returned to Brazil not richer, not wiser, and not happier. Just older. Still, he was glad to be back. The Rio he remembered was still there, and he felt a quiet joy in walking its familiar streets. His plan was simple: rest for a few days, visit a few people, and then return to his farm, far from the noise and lies of the city. He stayed at a small hotel and started his visits the very next day. One of the families he wanted to see was the Carvalhos. The father, once a wealthy miner from Minas Gerais, had lost most of his fortune in legal troubles. He moved to the city with what little he had left. Amaro had known the family for years. His own father had been close to Carvalho, and now that Amaro's father was gone, visiting felt like a duty and a comfort. When Amaro arrived at the Carvalho house, he didn't expect much. He thought he'd find an old man, maybe a couple of children, and a quiet afternoon of polite talk. But instead, he met Antonina. She was 25, smart, and full of life. She wasn't related to the Carvalhos by blood, but she lived with them like family. Her own father had died long ago, and after her husband passed, she had nowhere else to go. Carvalho, who had been her father's closest friend, took her in. To everyone in the house, she was like a daughter. Antonina was not just beautiful, though she was that too. She was clever, elegant, and knew how to talk to people. She played the piano well, could read poetry in French, and had a smile that made even tired men feel young again. When Amaro met her, something inside him stirred. He had come back to Brazil feeling like a man with nothing. But now, standing in that house, looking at her, he wondered if maybe he had come back for a reason after all. Amaro Faria had always impressed Carvalho with his sharp mind, and Carvalho never missed a chance to praise that gift, which he considered the most valuable of all. Faria visited twice in 3 days, just as a friendly guest. But by the 4th day, he felt a strong pull to go back. If he had left for his farm, maybe he wouldn't have thought of anything else. But that 3rd visit led to another, and then more, until, after just 15 days, instead of heading back to the countryside, Faria decided he would stay in the city for a long time. He had fallen in love. Antonina deserved to be loved by someone like Faria. She wasn't stunningly beautiful, but her face was well-proportioned, her eyes full of fire, and she had a charm that made everyone like her. People respected her a lot. Did the young man have a chance? Yes. She had quickly returned his affection, and with a passion that matched his own. When Carvalho began to suspect the romance, he said to Faria one day, "I already know you have a little love affair going on here at my house." "Me?" asked Faria. "Yes, you." "Well, then you're right. It's true. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want to tell you that I see things clearly, and I miss nothing. She's a fine girl." "Oh, she sure is. Want to hear something? I'm actually thanking that cursed Marcondes who dragged me away from my farm, because now I've found my happiness here." "So it's decided?" "It sure is. When I think about it, I realize I can't help but get married. I want a calm life that's just who I am. If I find a woman who doesn't care about fashion or balls, I'll be perfectly happy. I think she's like that. And besides, she's pretty. And most importantly," Carvalho added, "she's discreet." "Exactly," said Faria. "Well then, bravo. Should I let her know how you feel?" "Go ahead and talk to her." Carvalho and Faria had this conversation during the afternoon when Faria came to dinner. That same night, as Faria was getting ready to leave, Carvalho pulled him aside and said, "I spoke to her about it, and she feels the same way." Faria went home that night determined to propose to Antonina the very next day. Amaro showed up at Carvalho's house the next day, just like he always did. He sat down with the widow and, without hesitation, asked her straight, did she want to marry him? She looked at him surprised. "Do you really love me?" "I think you already know," he replied. "After all, I can feel how much you love me too." "Yes," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You want me to accept you as your husband?" "I do," she whispered. "But say it again," he insisted. "Say that you love me. 100 times, 1,000 times if you want. I love you deeply. But what if this is just a passing feeling? If it were, I'd be giving you my entire life." "Isn't that enough?" "Everyone says that at first," she murmured. "Are you doubting me already?" "No. Just a natural fear. The fear of someone who truly loves." "You still don't know me well," he said gently. "But you'll see I mean every word. You are mine, aren't you?" "I am," Antonina replied. "Before God and everyone else." With everything settled and no obstacles in the way, they set the wedding date for 2 months later. Amaro couldn't help but feel grateful for having left the farm behind. He even wrote a letter to Marcondes, thanking him for pushing him to come to the city. The letter ended like this: "You are the devil of good intentions, and I thank you for your temptations. In Soledad, I had everything except the woman I've finally found." There wasn't a single cloud on the horizon of our hero's life. Nothing seemed capable of disturbing his happiness. But something did. One evening, when Amaro came home for dinner, he found a letter waiting for him. It had been sent by post, and the seal was still fresh. He opened it and read, "This letter comes from someone who saw you recently at the Lyric Theater, seated in a box on the second level. Some people say love is born from electric sympathy. I'm not interested in theories, but what I felt makes me think those people might be right. It was the first time I saw you, and yet, without knowing how or why, I felt completely overwhelmed by your gaze. I had a terrible night. You were sitting beside two ladies, speaking gently to one of them." Amaro Faria read the letter again and again, trying to make sense of it. He didn't recognize the handwriting. He couldn't guess who had sent it. All he knew was what the letter said, and that was more than enough to shake him. Maybe this was madness, the writer admitted, but she didn't care. She had lost her mind. She loved him wildly, desperately. She wished she could tell him to his face, but she never would. Her duties forced her to stay silent. She was condemned to love him without ever saying the words out loud. She only wanted him to know one thing. Among all the women in the city, there was one who trembled with joy and pain, with love and hate, every time she saw him. Because she could never be his, and his alone. Amaro kept reading, stunned. The letter burned with emotion. He felt a strange mix of pride and unease. Who was she? Why had she chosen to write to him? Later that day he went to visit Carvalho, as he often did. Antonina, his future wife, greeted him with her usual warmth. For a moment, he thought about telling her what had happened. But then he stopped himself. Why cause her pain over something so harmless? 2 days passed. Another letter waited for him. This time, Amaro opened it quickly. He recognized the handwriting now. Mystery was growing, and he was starting to enjoy it. The letter began. I tried to stop. I told myself I wouldn't write again. But I couldn't help it. I had to write. It's stronger than me. Men don't understand how hard it is for a woman to stay inside the lines, to obey what's right. I fought hard before sending the first letter. And even now I'm not sure I should send this one. But love wins. It always wins. I don't live for anything else anymore except the thought of you. Day or night, alone or in a crowd, your face is always with me. I know your name. I know who you are. And I know you are a good man. Amaro folded the letter carefully. His heart beat faster. He didn't know who she was, but he was beginning to feel like he already knew her soul. She must think I don't know who she is. And maybe she believes, as she writes these letters, that I'm looking for some romance to bring back my youth and make me feel alive again. No, I'm not that kind of man. I am a young woman, and I can say I am beautiful. Not because others tell me so. I know people might flatter me, but because of the quiet admiration I hear whenever I walk into a room or down the street. Please forgive me for speaking so openly about myself. But what matters most is that I love you completely, and I belong to no one else, now or ever. Just one letter from you, even a single line, or any small memory would mean the world to me. I would keep it like a treasure, like something magical. If you could do this favor for a woman who has known sadness, please write to PL and mail it, and I will collect it myself. Goodbye. Goodbye. Amaro Faria wasn't used to this kind of love letter, and honestly, such letters don't happen often in real life. The first letter had made him curious, but only for a moment. The second one, though, stayed with him. He felt drawn to the mystery, to the unknown something he had always avoided, always choosing the simple truth of everyday life. Should I write back? He asked himself. It's clear she truly loves me. No one writes like that unless they mean it. She says she's beautiful, and she's not afraid to say so, which makes me believe she really is. But should I answer her? Just then, someone clapped outside his door. It was Luis Marcondes, just back from Europe. What's this? Amaro asked. You're already back? Yes, just to change things up. I'm more surprised to find you here in the city when I thought you were already at the farm. No, I never went to Soledad after I came back. And get this, getting married. Getting married? Yes. With your left hand? Like a secret marriage? No, not at all. With my right hand, in front of everyone. That's unbelievable. I know. But you wouldn't say that if you met my bride. She's an angel. Well then, congratulations. I'll introduce you tonight. And to celebrate your return, you'll have dinner with me. Yes. At the dinner table, Amaro told Marcondes the whole story about the letters, and even read them aloud. Bravo, Marcondes said, clapping his hands. And what did you answer? Nothing. Nothing. You're a rude fool. A woman writes to you, shows she's in love, and you don't reply. That's not how Marcondes would do it. Forgive me for speaking in versy old Horace again. He was about to give a speech, but Amaro quickly stopped him by handing over the menu. Marcondes shifted his attention from poetry to the roast beef and potatoes right away. But, come on, Marcondes went on. Don't you want to tell me why you didn't answer? How should I know? First of all, I'm not used to this kind of real-life love story that starts with anonymous letters. And second, I'm getting married. Marcondes smiled and said, I can answer that. Yes, this is your first time. But just because you're getting married doesn't mean you can't have a little fun. If I'm going from here to Botafogo, no rule says I can't stop by the public promenade or the National Library. So, can I take over this love story? Not a chance. That would be disloyal. Then at least write back. But, what should I say? Tell her you love her. That's impossible. She won't believe me. You're so slow, Marcondes said, pouring wine into their glasses. Tell her the letters made your head spin, and that you already feel yourself falling for her, if you don't already love her. And write 3 or 4 pages like that. Do you really think I should? Absolutely. To be honest, I'm a bit curious. Then go ahead. That very afternoon, Amaro wrote a letter exactly like that, and Marcondes approved every word. Madam, it began. Whoever you are a noble soul with a burning heart. Only a great love could have led you to take such a risky step. I have read and reread your 2 letters, and if I'm honest, I've thought of nothing else all day. They feel like a dream to me. I often wonder if it's really possible that I could inspire such deep love. I feel grateful to the gods for keeping me here in the city, because only here could I have found such happiness. In my loneliness, her letters shine like a rainbow of hope and joy. But I would be even happier if I could finally meet her, if I could see her in person, and worship not just an imagined dream, but the real woman behind it. Can I dare to hope for that? Just thinking about it feels like a bold move. Still, I trust you will forgive me, because love forgives everything. No matter what happens, she should know I am ready to love her back with all my heart, and honor her as she truly deserves. One word from her, and I would face any obstacle to reach her side. I sent the letter with all the right instructions. Amaro, who hesitated for a moment before sending it, went out that evening with Luis Marcondes to visit his fiancée. Você. Antonina greeted her future husband with her usual joy. Marcondes won everyone's favor with his cheerful and funny way, even though he had a habit of talking too much and never seeming to end a speech. At about 11:30, when they left Carvalho's house, Marcondes quickly said to his friend, "She's beautiful, your fiancée." "You think so?" "I'm sure of it. And she seems to really care about you." "That's exactly why I regret writing that letter," Amaro said with a sigh. "Are you serious?" Marcondes laughed. "Why would God give nuts to someone with no teeth?" "You really think she'll reply?" "If she replies, oh, she will. I know these things, my friend." "What do you think she'll say?" "1,000 sweet things." "What do you think will come of all this?" Amaro asked. "I think she likes me." "Don't you agree?" "I told you so already." "I can't wait to read her reply." "Me neither." Marcondes thought to himself, it would be better if I took over this romance. That fool will ruin it for sure. Amaro noticed that his friend seemed to hesitate, as if there was something more he wanted to say. Amaro looked out the window, lost in thought. Marcondes interrupted him gently. I asked, "What are you thinking about?" Amaro turned slowly. "I'm thinking you're a fool. And I could finish your story myself if I wanted to." "No way," Marcondes said, shaking his head. "Now let me finish. Wait for the reply first. I want you to help me, okay?" "Sure. But only if you promise not to act like an idiot." They left each other late that night. Amaro walked home, his mind full of the mystery. The letters haunted him. He imagined the woman behind them, building her in his thoughts. He gave her golden hair, a soft voice, and eyes that could see into his soul. The next letter came soon. It was full of love and joy. She thanked him for writing. She said she would keep his letter forever, even if she died. But 2 lines made Amaro stop reading. "A few days ago, I saw you walking on Rua do Ouvidor with a family. People told me you were going to marry one of the young women. I suffered terribly. If you are getting married, it means you love her. And that certainty kills me." The second line was even colder. "As for your request to meet me, I say numero, you will never see me. Never. Do you hear? It's enough that you know I love you. Much more than the widow Antonina ever will. Give up the hope of seeing me. Amaro handed the letter to Marconde the next morning, his face pale. You see? It's over, he said. Marconde laughed. You idiot. Don't you see she's not telling the truth? Do you really think she wrote what she truly feels? He paused, then added, This is the perfect moment to answer. Address the part about your marriage carefully, and ask again to see her. Amaro didn't hesitate. He trusted his feelings more than his logic. The next day, he wrote back. He poured his heart into the letter. He denied the rumor about his marriage. He wrote with care, honesty, and passion. And he begged once more to meet her. He didn't know it yet, but this letter would change everything. Amaro knew the truth: his wedding was set, and the woman he had seen with Antonina could only be his secret admirer. Still, he told himself that love could change. After all, hadn't the wedding been delayed? Maybe fate had something better in store. The letters, full of passion and mystery, had stirred something deep in him. He begged, again and again, just to see her, even for a moment. He needed to memorize the face he would love forever. She answered, but her letter was full of contradictions, openness mixed with silence, promises mixed with refusals. Still, Amaro kept writing, pouring all the emotion he could into each word. His final letter must have struck the right chord. At last, she gave in. I will let you see me, but only for 1 minute. I will come with my maid, who is more a friend than servant, in a carriage. It will be on the 15th, at 7 in the morning, at Flamengo Beach. To help you recognize it, the carriage has the number 13. It belongs to a driver who once worked for me. Marcondes read the letter and grinned. What did I tell you? He said to Amaro. Without me, this whole story would have gone down the drain. People say life is full of thorns and flowers. If that's true, why not pick the flowers when you find them? This time, he could talk without interruption. Amaro was too lost in the joy of her words to stop him. Today is the 13th, Marcondes added. The 15th is the day. He paused, then smiled slyly. If she's as beautiful as you say, why not run away with her? The ship to the River Plate leaves on the 23rd. And your estate? Well, it's just a piece of land. He held the letter closer, studying the handwriting. Look at this elegant script. And the scent, it's so refined. No doubt, Amaro replied softly. She's a woman of class. I just hope I'm there to hear how it all goes, Marcondes said. On the 15th, he'll wait at your house. Amaro Faria had waited for this day with growing excitement. The morning of the 15th finally arrived, bright and clear, and Amaro woke up full of nervous energy. He dressed carefully, making sure to look his best. He had never cared much about fashion before, but today felt different. He wanted to impress. After one last check in the mirror, he stepped outside and climbed into a small carriage. He knew exactly how long the trip should take, but like any anxious lover, he arrived much earlier than planned. He parked the carriage a short distance away and began walking along the beach, trying to calm his nerves. Every time he saw a carriage in the distance, his heart raced. He watched closely, hoping to see the number 13. But each time, disappointment followed. One carriage showed number 245, another 523. With every wrong number, his confidence dropped a little more. He kept checking his watch, wondering if he had made a mistake. Then, far down the road, he saw another carriage. It moved slowly, almost mysteriously, as if it carried secrets inside. Amaro's pulse quickened. "Is this the one?" he whispered to himself. As the carriage came closer, he saw that its windows were covered. He couldn't see who was inside. The moment it passed him, he turned quickly and read the number. 13. The letters burned in his mind like fire. Without thinking, he ran after it. The carriage stopped just 20 steps ahead. Amaro caught up, walked to the side door, and knocked gently. The door opened. Inside sat two women, both wearing veils that covered their faces. Amaro couldn't tell which one was his secret love. He stepped closer and said softly, "It's me. You promised I would see you." He looked at both women, unsure which one would answer. Then one of them lifted her veil. "Look," she said simply. Amaro took a step back. His heart stopped. The woman in front of him was Antonina. She continued calmly, "Here are your letters. I made a profit from them." She smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Now that I'm married, it's better you see me before it's too late. No time for regrets later." She looked at him one last time. "Goodbye." She pulled her veil back down, closed the door, and the carriage rolled away. Amaro stood there for a few minutes, frozen in place, eyes fixed on nothing, heart pounding. He felt like chasing the carriage, sprinting after it like a madman, but it was already too far gone. Even the fastest horse-drawn cart couldn't catch it now. The carriage had vanished into the dust, racing away at full gallop. He sighed and called for his own cart again, the one that had brought him here. With heavy steps and a heavier heart, he climbed in and told the driver to head back to town. When he got home, Marcondes, the young man with a grin always ready, came to meet him at the door. "So," Marcondes asked, eyes sparkling, "is she beautiful?" Amaro groaned. "She's the devil herself." "Leave me alone." But Marcondes didn't let go so easily. Pressed for details, Amaro finally gave in and told his friend everything, how he had seen her, how his heart had raced, how the whole thing had slipped through his fingers. Marcondes listened, nodding at the right moments, offering what comfort he could. But as soon as he left, he burst into laughter, shaking his head like someone who had just heard the strangest joke. Later that week, Amaro returned to his farm. As he passed through the gates of Soledad, he muttered to himself, "In going back to my coffee fields, every time I've gone chasing after something unknown, it's brought me nothing but trouble. From now on, I'll shut the doors and live among my crops where I belong."
Thank you for listening so far. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like our channel and click the bell to be notified whenever a new book is read. Have you heard of Machado de Assis? Machado de Assis, born in Rio de Janeiro in 1839, is considered one of the greatest writers in Brazilian literature and a master of psychological realism. He was a novelist, poet, playwright, and short story writer whose works explore the complexities of human behavior with irony, subtlety, and deep introspection. Among his most famous novels are Dom Casmurro, which questions truth and memory, and the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, a satirical narrative told by a deceased man. Machado's literature often reflects the contradictions of Brazilian society, addressing issues like race, class, power, and identity in a sophisticated yet accessible style. Despite being born into poverty and facing racial prejudice, Machado de Assis rose to become the president of the Brazilian Academy of Letters and a symbol of literary excellence. His sharp wit and profound observations about society and the human soul make his works timeless and universally relevant. Today, he is recognized not only as a Brazilian icon, but also as a world-class author whose legacy continues to influence generations of writers and thinkers. Machado de Assis shows us that literature can be both elegant and critical, intimate and universal, humorous and profound. His stories remain as powerful and thought-provoking today as they were more than a century ago. Machado is a treasure of world literature, and through his voice, we discover the infinite layers of the human experience.